Okay, God bless. We're going to get into Revelation 13, but before we do that, we have to finish up our study of the book of Daniel. So I'd like to go back to Daniel chapter 9 and look at verse 27. Again, it's talking about 9:27 is talking about when the last world tyrant is ruling the last 7 years. It says, he will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week. And now we know from the context of Daniel, that means for 7 years. He'll make a covenant for 7 years. But in the middle of the week, that's 3.5 years, he will put a stop to the sacrifice and the grain offering. And on the wing of abominations will come one who makes desolate, even until a complete destruction, one that is decreed, is poured out on the one who makes desolate. So this what's going to happen is he's going to make a firm covenant with many for 1 week. Included in that covenant is Israel being able to come back to a temple. He'll be responsible for building a temple in the holy place. And Israel, finally, after all of these years, thousands have gone by thus far, where they can go back to the temple and they can do their feasts and they can offer their animal sacrifices and do all of that. At least he's made that covenant that would be so. But halfway through, he breaks that. He says, no, you can't do your sacrifices. He changes the times, and we talked about it earlier, and the grain offerings. And then we know also from our study of the abomination of desolation, he sets himself up as being God. And which is then, people start worshiping him as such, and that abomination leads to, the desolation that will follow. On the wings of abominations means he will commit the abomination in the holy place. And that abomination will trigger the great desolation, which will completely destroy and will come who makes desolate. He will come who makes desolate. So that desolation, he's going to end up destroying the temple that he himself was responsible for building, and he's going to destroy Jerusalem. Now we're going to go to chapter 11. The chapter provides much detailed information about history from Daniel's time forward, ending with the focus on Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. According to the book of Maccabees, Antiochus did many of the same things that the Antichrist or the beast will do at the end of the age. He placed an image of Zeus in the temple in the Holy of Holies and sacrificed a pig, a sow, on the altar around 167 BC. Jesus referred to the abomination of desolation as yet a future event associated with the Antichrist, using a well-known historic event to warn of something yet future. So when Jesus spoke of it in Matthew 24, it was in the minds of the people about the abomination of desolation that took place. That's when Hanukkah started, because the Jews rebelled against that, and they were successful. And so Jesus, using that background of history, pointed towards what will happen when the beast rules in those last 7 years. So starting in verse 36 of chapter 11, the record may jump to the beast and the coming tribulation. Most of what this section communicates we've already acknowledged in previous chapters, but let's look at it anyhow. In Daniel 11:36, then the king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and will speak monstrous things against the God of gods, and he will prosper until the indignation is finished. For that which is decreed will be done. So again, the king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god. He will speak monstrous things against the God of gods, against Yahweh. he will prosper until the indignation is finished. For that which is decreed will be done. Then verse 37, he will show no regard for the gods of his fathers, or for the desire of women, nor will he show regard for any other god, for he will magnify himself above them all. Again, outlined, he will show no regard for the gods of his father. He'll have no desire of women. I don't know if that means he'll be celibate or he'll be homosexual, but he will not have a desire for women, which is ironic as we go forward in the class, because he promotes sexual immorality throughout the whole world. But he himself will have no desire for women. Nor will he show regard for any other god. He will magnify himself above them all. In Daniel 11:38, but instead he will honor a god of fortresses, a god whom his fathers did not know. He will honor him with gold, silver, costly stones, and treasures. A big part of that ending kingdom will be about greed and prosperity. He will honor a god of fortresses, a god whom his fathers did not know. He will honor him with gold, silver, and costly stones. 39, he will take action against the strongest fortress with the help of a foreign god. He will give great honor to those who acknowledge him, and will cause them to rule over the many, and will parcel out the land for a price. That's not too unusual. We see that happening with governments today. If you help get the guy in position, then he rewards you. He'll take action against the strongest fortresses. He will give honor to those who acknowledge him. And then in Daniel chapter 12, you can turn in your Bible to Daniel chapter 12, or you can look up on the screen. Now at that time, Michael, the great prince, who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise. And there will be a time of distress such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. So Michael is the one who stands guard over the sons of God's people, which is good news. There will be a time of distress such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time, and that's going to be that last 3.5 years. It's going to be a time of great tribulation. Everyone who is found written in the book will be rescued. That's good news. Then in chapter 12, verse 2, many of those who sleep in the dust of the ground will awake, these to everlasting life, but the others to disgrace and everlasting contempt. That's the two resurrections, is foretold in chapter 12. Then verse 3, those who have insight will shine brightly like the brightness of the expanse of heaven, and those who lead the many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. So those who have the insight will shine brightly, and those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. And that's basically the essence of what is written in Daniel, except for the last bit here in verse 6. Anyone who says to the man dressed in linen who is above the waters of the river, how long will it be until the end of these wonders? I heard the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, as he raised his right hand and his left toward heaven, and swore by him who lives forever that it would be for a time, times, and a half time. And as soon as they finish shattering the power of the holy people, all these events will be completed. And again, I'm leaving it to you to read the chapters yourself. I just wanted to highlight, again, the 3.5 years. From the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be that, this is that verse 11, there will be 1,290 days. And that is Daniel with cliff notes. Now, I want to summarize all of this so you can just kind of look on in your notes or on the screen. There will be no trace of the former kingdoms will be found when Christ's kingdoms come. When God's kingdom comes, when Christ rules. He will be over the earth. He will never be destroyed. Will not be left to another people. The kingdom won't be left to another people. This is the final kingdom. It will endure forever. The Son of Man will come. I'm just summarizing it as we looked at it, right? That's the order. Jesus will be given dominion, glory, and kingdom. Everyone in the world will serve him. Hallelujah is right. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will never pass away. The saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever. The sovereignty, the dominion, and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions will serve and obey him. The transgressions will be finished, sin will end, and the atonement for iniquity is satisfied. There'll be everlasting righteousness. The vision and the prophecy will be fulfilled. All of the stuff that we're reading will be fulfilled at that time. The most holy place will be anointed. Everyone who is found written in the book will be rescued. The resurrection of the just, then there will be the resurrection of the unjust. Those who have insight will shine brightly like the brightness of the expanse of heaven, and those who lead the many to righteousness like the stars forever. So now let's look at Revelation chapter 13. That's quite an intro to Revelation 13. The vision that is in Revelation 13 pertains to the first 3.5 years of the last 7 years before Christ returns. Again, the vision in Revelation 13, what we're going to read in a minute here, it pertains to the first 3.5 years of the last 7 years. The information in Revelation chapter 11 takes place at the last 3.5 years. Ironically, they're written backwards. I mean, the last 3.5 years are covered in chapter 11. The first 3.5 years are covered in chapter 13. They're separate visions. When you're reading the book of Revelation, you don't want to get too bent on chronological order. You got to understand each vision within the vision itself. Daniel, Jesus, and Paul all tell that the abomination will take place in the temple. Today, the Dome of the Rock is there. It's a Muslim shrine. The beast somehow brokers a deal so that the temple can once again be built in the holy place. He has a peace covenant with the promise that the Jews can again carry out the sacrifices spoken of in the Torah. However, 3.5 years into the covenant, he reverses his promise and sets himself up as God to be worshipped in the temple. Hence, the abomination that causes desolation. I think this chart, if it doesn't stand out for you in the red, then I don't know what will. So the first 3.5 years is going to be a time of peace and prosperity. That's covered in Revelation 13. And it's also covered in the other chapters that follow in Revelation. Halfway through, the 3.5 years is when the abomination that makes desolate. Again, that's when he is in the throne and he is worshipped as a God-man. And then the last 3.5 years is the time of the great tribulation and desolation. And that's in Revelation chapter 11. So now we're in 13, verse 1. And the dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. And I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads. And on his horns were 10 diadems, those are crowns. And on his head were blasphemous names. The first thing to acknowledge in this verse is the dragon. Who is the dragon? And the dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. According to Revelation 12:3, the chapter preceding this, it tells us that the dragon is the serpent. And look at 12:9. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth. So the dragon is the devil. It's the serpent. And in 12:3, Revelation 12:3, then another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. On his heads were 7 diadems. Well, I wanted to point that out to you because in Revelation 13, we're talking about the beast. That beast is the last world emperor, or the last superpower, the last guy and he's going to be in charge of the world. And he has the 10 horns and the 7 heads. In other words, he's going to be the personification of the devil. We just saw in chapter 12 that the devil has that. He empowers the beast to have that here on earth. He empowers the beast. He has 10 horns and 7 heads. The beast, he's called the beast here in Revelation. In Daniel, he was called the little horn. In 2 Thessalonians, he's called the man of lawlessness, the son of destruction. In Isaiah, he's called the Assyrian. He will be the last evil tyrant that rules the world before Jesus returns and destroys him. So he's got different names. Again, in Daniel, he's the little horn, which we're going to see in more clarity in a minute. He's the little horn, and as I just said, in Thessalonians, the man of lawlessness, the son of destruction. In Isaiah, he's the Assyrian, and here in Revelation, he is called the beast. Then I saw a beast coming out, again, verse 1, out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 diadems, 10 crowns, and on his head were blasphemous names. There's a lot of symbolism that's used here, and I thought it would help you if I just outlined it for you. The dragon is the devil. The beast is the last evil tyrant that rules the world. The 10 horns, they represent 10 united kingdoms. Horns are represented in their culture power, monarchs. These are 10 united kingdoms. And the 10 diadems are crowns representing the monarchs over those 10 kingdoms. The 7 heads are 7 kings. And what we're going to see in a minute is that little horn kills 3 of the 10 kings. Okay, so we'll get to that. So the 7 heads are 7 kings. And then we'll see later on in this chapter, there's a second beast that comes who's a lamb. Now, the first beast is this horrific description we saw in Daniel. The second one appears as a lamb. Lambs are docile and they're passive, but he's got a mouth like a dragon. His words are powerful and burning and piercing. And he's basically a religious leader. He comes across as pious and religious, and he supports the beast who's in charge of the whole empire and the world. Again, we looked at these beasts in Daniel, but look at verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like a leper, and his feet were like those of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. So we saw in Daniel 7 the kingdoms that went before, that one was like a lion, one was like a bear, one was like a leper. This last guy has all of that and more. He's the worst of the worst. And the dragon, that is the devil, gave him power and his throne and great authority. I want to go back to this thing of him having 10 horns, 7 heads, and 10 diadems. There's 10 powers, 10 crowns, but there's only 7 heads. And in order to understand that, again, I have it in your notes in Daniel chapter 7. We read it earlier, or maybe we didn't read it, maybe I just alluded to it. In 7:7, after this I kept looking in the night vision, and behold, the fourth beast, dreadful, terrifying, extremely strong. And it had large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the remainder with his feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. While I was contemplating the horns, behold, another horn, a little horn, came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were pulled out by the roots before it. And behold, this horn possessed eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth uttering great beasts. Great boasts, I'm sorry, let's start with a B. Great boasts. And so what we're seeing is that in the book of Revelation, the vision shows the 10 horns. They represent 10 distinct but unified kings and kingdoms, or unified kingdoms that comprise the last world empire. They're made up of 10. And there's been a lot of speculation as to what those 10 are, and I'm not going to go there at all in the class and try to tie it together with current events. I think that's profitless. Everybody's been wrong thus far. Since 3 of the kings are overthrown by the little horn, the remaining 10 kingdoms, but they only have 7 heads. There's still 10 kingdoms, but 3 of the kings have been killed. The little horn takes control of the 3, and then eventually all 10. He becomes in charge of the whole thing, and that becomes this terrifying beast. The other kings all submit to the little horn. Again, the leper, the bear, the lion, they're all animals used to describe these ferocious kingdoms that came before, but he will be greater than all of them. The devil is the one that gives him his power, his position, and his authority. We read in verse 2 or verse 3. And he basically is the personification of the devil. If you think about Jesus as being the embodiment of God, you know, Jesus, everything he said was as God wanted said. Everything that he did was as God wanted done. That's the way this one is going to be. He is going to be empowered by the devil to carry out the devil's work. You know, the devil is the god of this age. The devil is the ruler of the world, and he's the prince of the power of the air. He empowers this man to represent him to the world. So it's going to be one bad dude. In verse 3 of Revelation 13, and I saw one of his heads as if it had been slain, and his fatal wound was healed, and the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast. This one that overthrew the 3 and then becomes in charge of all 10, he ends up getting killed and then raised from the dead. And verse 3 says, and the whole world was amazed and followed after the beast. How's the whole world going to know about it? YouTube, TV, Facebook. Is it hard for the whole world to know anything anymore? And who knows what it would be like when this comes to pass. They're going to know that this guy was murdered and then raised from the dead. Sounds similar to someone. And they're going to follow the beast. I guess the healing pretty much validates him as a spiritually unique man. Verse 4, they worship the dragon that's again the devil, because he gave his authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to wage war with him? How can you fight against someone who gets killed and then gets raised from the dead? And indirectly, or directly, I guess indirectly, they worship the devil. If they're worshiping the beast, they're worshiping the devil, because the beast is the personification of the devil. There was given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies, and authority to act 42 months was given to him. 3.5 years. Once again, we see that. In Daniel, we read in a number of locations where it talks about his mouth. In Daniel 7:8, in the latter part of it, it says, his horn possessed eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth uttered great boasts. He brags about himself. In verse 11, then he kept looking, because the sound of the boastful words which the horn was speaking, a real braggart. In verse 20, in the latter part there, you see it in the yellow, a mouth uttering great boasts. In 7:20, he will speak out against the Most High. He will speak against God. In 11:36, he will speak monstrous things against the God of gods. He will really go strongly against the God of gods, our God, Yahweh, speaking monstrous things of him. He'll have authority to act for 3.5 years. Verse 6, he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that is, those who dwell in heaven. And I thought about this. He's going to not only blaspheme God, but he's going to blaspheme those who are in heaven. If we recall that we understand that the devil is the fallen cherub who was put in paradise to cover, to guard over it. He was one of the cherubim. At that time, there must have been 5 cherubim, either that or God created another one to take his place. There are 4 cherubim around the throne of God. Remember, the creatures with eyes all around. They have a face of a man, the face of an eagle, the face of a bear, the face of a lion, the 4 different, right? He was one of those. And he got cast out. And now he's blaspheming not only Yahweh, but those who are in heaven with him, the 4 living creatures, the 24 elders, and the angels. And it was given to him in verse 7 to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And authority over the tribe and the people and the tongue and the nation was given to him. Now look at verse 8. All who dwell on earth will worship him. All who dwell on earth will worship him. Everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain. Everybody is going to worship him except for the believers who choose to stand. Verse 9 says, if anyone has an ear, let him hear. Speaking to us, speaking to the believers who read this, that we should know that there is going to be this time of persecution against the Christians, and that the whole world is going to be in agreement that this man is God, and he should be worshiped. And we will have to make the choice. Are we going to join the multitude as we are confronted with that today? Are we going to believe what everybody else believes that is common? Or are we going to stand for the one true God? Verse 9 says, if anyone who has an ear, let him hear. This isn't the first time in Revelation this is spoken. It's spoken in Revelation 2:7, where it says, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will grant to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. But you will be presented with the experience or the choice of whether to overcome and stand or be killed or compromised. Will you get the mark of the beast on you, or will you stand strong and worship the one true God? Verse 10, if anyone is destined to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with the sword he must be killed. Here is the perseverance and the faith of the saints. Perseverance is spoken about very often in the book of Revelation. Chapter 2, verse 2, 3, 19. Chapter 3, verse 10, 13, 10, 14, 12. It's in your notes. There's all these times it talks about perseverance. This is what Jesus taught when he was here quite often. Stand faithful. Don't compromise. Don't get in. Don't give up. Stand strong. Even if it means being put to death. Don't give up. Verse 11. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. He comes across as a lamb. Lambs are very docile, very peaceful, but the words that come out of his mouth are fiery. They're powerful. He exercises all authority of the first beast in his presence, and he makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound was healed. So this religious leader endorses this political leader and tells the world he's the man. Worship him. He's the God. He's the God-man. He performs great signs, this religious leader, so that he even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth, having his name and the name of his Father written on their foreheads. Wait a minute. Did I skip a page? Yeah, I sure did. Sorry. 13:13. And he performs great signs so that he makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which is given him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as to do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. It's really going to be a time of, and he's going to have supernatural power, empowered by the devil. It's not the first time. You remember in the time of Moses, the hooky-pookers that were with Pharaoh, they were able to do stuff, and there's certainly people today that are able to do it. You can turn TV on and watch America's Got Talent, and you can see people levitating themselves and doing other things that are supposedly magic, but it's impossible to be done. They're spiritually influenced. So the devil empowers people. He's going to empower this beast, and the beast is going to, give everybody, pointing him to the first beast. He causes, verse 16, he causes all, the small and the great and the rich and the poor and the freemen and the slaves to be given the mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And he provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, even the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. 666. In 2 Thessalonians, you'll have to turn to it, I guess. Or do you have it there in your notes? No, turn to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, please. 2 Thessalonians. Chapter 2. Verse 1 says, "Now we request you, brethren, with regard to the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, that you not be quickly shaken from your composure or be disturbed either by a spirit or a message or a letter, as if from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. Let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction. So there's two things that are set forth here in Thessalonians that must come. There's the apostasy. Apostasy means, it's translated in Acts 21:21, it's translated to forsake. There will be, the whole of the human race is going to worship the beast. There will be many Christians that will forsake also. There'll be an apostasy. There will be people that give up, they quit, and they join the rank. They get the mark of the beast because they want to eat, and they want it either on their hand or on their head or whatever. They want to be a part of it. And there's this great apostasy. And then the second thing he said, the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction. So, yes, you cannot know the times or the seasons, but you can know this, that when a guy like this comes to power, that you know that the end is coming near. And not until then should you be hoodwinked into believing that the end is here. So all this information is given to us so that we understand. That's what he's saying in the beginning of this. Look, someone with spirit or a message or a prophet, if you hear a message from us, don't believe it. This has to happen first. There will be the apostasy, and then the son of destruction. And then verse 4, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as what? Being God. And that's what he is going to do. That will be the abomination of desolation. Paul obviously warned them and us so that we understand what will happen, so that we're not deceived and we're not taken in. And I know these things can be frightful, but we have God in Christ in us. It says in 1 John 4:4, beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets had gone out into the world. But this you know, by this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, of which you have heard that it is coming, and now it is already in the world. You are from God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. We have to claim that. You know, we have to be fully persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. We don't have to get bullied. Even though this is coming, we can stand and not do anything other than continue to bring glory and honor to God. But this is what's going to come, so we need to be aware of it. We'll see more in our next session. God bless.